Hello, students. Today is Thursday, January 28th, and I am pre-recording today's assembly from our fifth floor commons area. I wanted to be up here because I wanted to share with you the updates that have happened since you left us in the fifth floor commons. So I'm going to move the camera around. What we did is the PTA helped us with Give to the Max donations from families, helped us to redecorate the commons. Look at this. So we put up different artwork to represent different parts of history. And we added, you saw some of the couches when you were here in the fall, but we also added these cool learning stations. So right here, it seats 6 kids, 6 students, and there's one in that corner. Sorry if that made you dizzy. I get dizzy when the camera moves around a lot. And then check this out. This is a whiteboard. So these learning stations seat 6 students. And then if you're all working together on something like a math problem, you can write right on the whiteboard. And then we have dry erase markers in this cabinet right here. So I'm very excited about this new outfit up here. And we're excited to get you back on campus when we're able to see you again. All right. Thought I would sit at one of the learning stations for today's assembly. Today's assembly revolves around continuing to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As you know, we celebrate him on January 15th, but we like to celebrate him throughout the year. And the purpose of today's assembly is to highlight excerpts from students that highlighted how Dr. Martin Luther King continues to inspire him and how they see his mission and vision for how we approach the world today. And so what we have here, so we have 8th grade students from Mr. Krieger's social studies class. Mr. Krieger had an assignment for his classes. And his assignment was to pick a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and explain why it spoke to you and how that quote is still relevant today. How is it relevant to what's going on this week or last week or when the pandemic hit, right? So much going on right now. So Mr. Krieger highlighted some students that I'm going to read the quote they picked and then read to you why they think that quote is relevant. I decided to leave out student names. I didn't want to embarrass anybody, but if you are one of the students, you can just think about it, giggle inside, or you can tell people it's up to you. And then after this, so I'm going to read from 6 students excerpts. And then the Honor Council is sharing some videos with their reflections on how they continue to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his mission and vision. Okay? All right. Hopefully I'm getting you thinking these chairs are pretty cool. All right. The first student wrote the following about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today I chose one of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s quotes. I chose his quote. I came to the conclusion that there is an existential moment in your life when you must decide to speak for yourself. Nobody else can speak for you. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I chose this quote because I think it is very meaningful, and there is a lot to this quote that needs to be talked about. I think it is not very popular, but is just as good as it should be more recognized. In my opinion, this quote means that you cannot wait for someone to do it for you. If you have something you need to do, you've got to figure out a way to do it on your own. I think the deeper meaning to this quote is that if there is something in your life that needs to be changed, you need to speak up. Dr. Martin Luther King got arrested for peaceful, nonviolent protests multiple times, but that didn't stop him. He kept pushing until he got more equality for all people. All is emphasized. This is what made Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. so amazing because he never stopped, even when there were barriers keeping him from accomplishing his dreams. I think the thing that makes this quote relevant to our time is that it can still apply to many things. We live in an imperfect world where racism and inequality still exist. It has gotten better, but it does still exist. To change these things, we need to speak up and not wait for someone else to do it, because it only takes one strong leader to change something. I think that if people started to speak for themselves and not let others' opinions affect their dreams, the world would be significantly changed. All right, another 8th grade student. Here's the quote. The time is always right to do what is right. I think that what Dr. King Jr. meant when he said this was that you shouldn't wait to do something right or fix something that needs to be fixed. At the time, he was most likely referring to injustice towards people of color in America. He wanted people to stand up for what was right and call out people that were in the wrong. Even if there were punishments and consequences at the time, they would be written down on the right side of history, and that they shouldn't be afraid to try and change the world for the better. Furthermore, this quote can also be applied to the current time we live in. People are still fighting and slowly winning rights. Injustice is still being practiced by the ones who are supposed to protect democracy and the people that live in it. People are still taking his words to heart and walking the streets while protesting peacefully like he would have wanted us to do. They are educating people on the truth and telling them things that they can do to help out with no plans on stopping. I think that he would be proud of how far we've gotten. Very nice. All right, another 8th grade student. The quote I chose was, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." I chose this quote because I think this quote's meaning is very powerful. The quote's message is basically that we need to stop being silent about things that matter. It doesn't really have a deeper meaning because in the quote itself, it's easy to be able to tell what the message is. But if you really look into it, you can tell that he is saying to stop ignoring issues that need fixing. I think this quote is relevant to us in this time in many ways. It is relevant when talking about BLM movements and all the deaths. Same with same with MLM movements as well. I think this quote should apply to basically everything going on in the world right now. Whether it's something like global warming or discrimination, this quote is very much so relevant. All right, another one. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenging and controversy. I chose this quote because I think it is a good meaning. The quote can also mean different things to different people. It can have many meanings, but because not everyone thinks the same, it will always change. Depending on who is teaching, talking, or preaching, it will have a meaning and there can be ways to talk about it. It also isn't directed to any one single person or group. It can be everyone and no one at all. I feel as if quotes are best when more than one single group can understand them. This quote can mean so much and maybe nothing at all. This quote also means more coming from MLK Jr. because of what he did and went through, but I think it would still mean something coming from another person, but it wouldn't be as prominent. I think Dr. King meant that you can never see what a person is really like until they can do something or go through something difficult. You can never see someone's true colors till you can't control things. You learn the most about people when in different situations. I like that. Like I said before, it can mean many different things. This is particularly what it means to me. How can you not know someone enough until they make great actions? It all depends on how someone acts upon times of hardship. I think this quote is relevant to this time because there are so many people acting as if there is someone else. So many people are not being themselves because of fear of being frowned upon. But when there is magpie moment in time, you can only do what you think is best, not who that person is trying to be. People can mostly only be themselves in time of hardship. There wouldn't be enough time to think of what the person they are trying to be would do, and they would just do what they thought was right. This is a hard pushing weight of what people should be, but people can only be themselves whether they like it or not. How people think isn't up for debate. It shows character and how people are. It also shows what the person could have done and how they can learn from that decision. All right, 2 more here for you. The most meaningful quote that Martin Luther King Jr. said that touched a lot was, "The time is always right to do what is right." Sounds familiar. I picked this quote because I've done wrong things that I thought couldn't fix. Next thing you know, I had second thoughts and I went for it and I fixed it. I never thought that there's always a time for a second chance. Like the quote, "The time is always right to do what is right." A real life example is when I was being disrespectful in soccer practice. I was pushing my brother and I kicked the ball so far that he got mad and he told the coach he wasn't going for it. And the coach told me to be nicer. So I sat out and I started thinking what I did. And I apologized to the whole club. And at the end, I apologized to the coach as well. Life's most persistent and urgent questions. What are you doing for others? So this student chose that quote. Life's most persistent and urgent question. What are you doing for others? The two reasons why I selected that quote is because one, that is what I wanted to strive for and live by. And two, because you need to overcome selflessness to truly change things in the world. The deeper meaning behind the quote is that he wants all of us that hear that quote to reflect and think about the choices we have made. The first thing that will help us change the world is that we need to reflect and look inward before we look outward on what we can change. The first reason why this quote is important is in our time is because now in days, we only look out of ourselves and no one else. Instead of taking things and not giving back, we can still take, but we also need to give back. Like Mother Earth, we need to stop taking so much from this earth and not giving back. Those were really powerful essays shared by some 8th grade students. And Mr. Krieger was so proud of all the 8th grade students and their reflections and the quotes that they chose and how you were able to make a connection to his vision at the time and how that vision is still influencing us every day moving forward. And it will continue to influence the next generation. So really great insight. Thank you for being inspirational. I feel inspired. I'm so happy to be reading these with you. So next, I will cut the video and we will queue up the Honor Council students. Thank you so much.
Hello, scholars. Torch ticket time. I hope you got as much out of those videos in that slideshow as I did, and you were able to celebrate Dr. King on not last Monday, but the Monday before. And it's always good to be of service, but in particular, in the month of January, we dedicate a lot of that service to Dr. King and his mission to move us forward. And as we wrap up January, we move into February. February is Black History Month, and we will look to celebrate that together. But right now, we're going to talk about torch tickets. Torch tickets this month of January, we had 318. That's a lot of torch tickets. Great job. 318, and I think we have more advisories reporting than any other time this year. So it's spread out more, which is awesome. Okay. We have 2 winners that will get Oreos when we're back on campus. I haven't bought them yet. Don't worry, they won't be stale. Okay. But the champion has been dethroned. Sorry, Mr. Plog, Mr. Bueller, you didn't win this month. That's pretty good. Okay. Other advisories have been stepping it up. And drum roll, please. The winners are with 70 in second place, Mr. Lamprecht and Mr. Leafs, 6th grade advisory. Way to go. And the winner with 77 individual torch tickets for the month of January, the advisory is Miss Doyle and Miss Capon. Way to go. We'll get you an Oreo party when you get back. All right. Then let's go on. I've already made a list. I've gone through the number generator for each of these. These are the students, 1 from each advisory, and they'll get a prize from the child drum that I had to confiscate from my children. Okay. All right. So here we go. The first one, Anastasievsky and Gunili. The winner from that advisory is Hunter H. And Hunter will be getting a free book from Miss Jensen. Miss Jensen, get him a book. All right. Number 2 from Cathers and Morgan. Arshia S. Cathers and Morgan. Free book. All right, Arshia, you're going to get a book. Miss Jensen, see to that, please. Next up, from Doyle and Capon, Brandon A. Brandon, let's see, you get a elevator pass. When you get back, that's going to be useful. Right now, not so much. Okay, Brandon, I'm going to write you down. Next up, from Hoffman and Miss Amy / Straight group is Mohammed A. Mohammed A, you get Starbucks card. Okay. Woo, all right. Next up, with Mr. Krieger and Mr. Barth, Ethan A. Oop, dropped the drum. Free book, Ethan. Ethan A. Good job. Next up, Leaf and Lamprecht. Leaf and Lamprecht's winner is Isabella A.M. Isabel A.M. Not Isabella. Elevator pass. Okay. And from Mr. Mulder's group, Mr. Mulder and Mr. Eddie, Connor. Connor won. Is that right? Yep, that's right. And Connor wins. Jeans day. You have to wear it tomorrow, though, Connor. Okay? You have to wear your jeans tomorrow. Just kidding. You can wait till you come back. All right, Connor, Mr. Mulder, Mr. Eddie. All right, 2 more left. Mr. Plog and Mr. Bueller. Alexander P. wins Starbucks. Alexander is coming in the mail, okay? We'll mail all these out for the winners. So that's fun to get mail. And the last one, Lad from Miss Strachan and Miss Wichterman. Lad, you get a jeans day as well. All right. Great job. Keep it up. This is some fantastic positive energy and positive work that you're doing, even virtually, even online, distance learning. It's amazing how much cool stuff you guys are doing. Keep it up. We'll see you in February.